Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. The more eagle-eyed among you might have by now noticed that I am not alone in frame. I actually have a guest with me because I am once again doing an interview. Dear guest, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lily Luchesi. I am the USA Today bestselling author of horror, occult, and urban fantasy fiction. And I also co founded and own Partners in Crime Book Services, where we assist indie authors and small press publishers with editing, cover design, and promotion.
Okay. You asked for this interview to come out around Halloween because I understand you have another project. You have a project that is due to be released around Halloween.
Yes, it's called Love Never Dies. It's a box set that I'm running, and it's going to be urban fantasy and paranormal romance surrounding reincarnation. And I have an alternate universe novel featuring characters I've already published, but it's going to be my first time doing alternate universe writing within my own world, so I'm very excited.
As someone who is currently doing alternate universe, I can I can imagine some of your excitement. Uh, I'll keep the comments on only level on your on your collection at a minimum for now because reasons. We might get into that later eventually. Uh, let's get back to the bulk of the interview. Um, we might touch upon depending on what it is that your work generally touches upon. Uh, the uh, the answers might become a little the answers or questions might become a little risque or a little outside the beaten path when it comes to stuff like this. So I want to know: is there any topic you do not want to discuss over the course of this interview?
I don't think there are any topics that I find off limits. I mean, even if you wanted to delve into politics, some of what I believe can turn some people off. But what I always say is if you like my writing, you're going to have to like my politics because everything is very, very, very gay. Yeah, no, there's nothing off limits for me.
Okay, noted. Not that anything being gay is gonna turn me off because I have like I have I've read and reviewed lesbian romances on this channel, so so it should be fine. Anyway, moving on. You say you're already a best-selling author. I have to ask,
Yes.
was your did you start by writing novels or did you start by writing something else and then graduated or transitioned into novel writing?
My goal was always novels. My very first publications were poetry and a short story, but my goal was always to have it be novels. But I love short stories. I have a short story collection I plan on releasing next year because it's just those are fun for me. But while I was getting those published, I was querying my first novel, Stakeout, at the same time. Because again, that was the main goal. I wanted to be Stephen King.
uh, I doubt written three books a year just like his pace. So or
I,
have
I
you?
can manage a lot. I manage a lot. I'm over 20 across two pen names in my career, and I've been out since 2015. I used to be able to write 100,000 word novel in 2 weeks when I didn't have a day job.
Okay. Um, that's that's it for that's it for that. You're making me seem inadequate, but
Most indie writers,
that's my failure. That's not yours.
yeah, most indie writers nowadays they can manage 50,000 words a month.
Yeah.
There's a
Okay.
lot of courses that teach you how to write that way,
And
but it's time.
I've somehow avoided all of them. Anyway, um, what inspired you to start writing? Writing in particular, and then or writing in general, and then novels in particular.
Writing in general, my mother actually wrote poetry,
Okay.
and I was introduced to novels and books since birth. My family prepared a floor to ceiling bookshelf with books age appropriate from like picture books through age 5, and even some like chapter books like Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing, like Judy Blume books. I taught myself how to read when I was around 2.5 because I just loved it so much. And I
Okay.
was read to every day. So books were just always a part of my life. And I always knew I wanted to make up stories. I didn't know I could be a writer until I was about 8 years old. And my second grade English teacher actually taught me the love of writing and prose and putting the words to paper. So 21 years, 21 years, that's been the goal.
Okay, that is, I have to say, that is quite impressive. Um, what is the, what is your thought process when it comes to writing a book? Are you plot first? Are you world first? Are you character first? How does?
Characters first.
Okay.
Characters first. They always come to me, and the characters mostly they'll come fully formed. Some of them still surprise me if it's going to be a series, but they'll just kind of pop up in there, like, "Hey, what about this?" and tell me like something random that happened to them. So once that happens, my brain formulates a book blurb. Whereas most authors write their blurbs last. I can't start a book unless I have a blurb. So it's characters, blurb, and then I just start typing and see where it takes me. I'm a complete pantser. Every time I've tried to outline, it never worked out. And I've tried a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people might benefit from starting with the blurb as
I
opposed to trying to
actually think
condense it in the
so.
end. Yeah.
I tell clients a lot, if you can get a blurb first, it will actually help you more because that little few paragraphs, those are going to help you along the way a lot more than a full outline.
Okay. Good to know. Uh, Next up, we've discussed the creation process, somewhat generically. Now we'll go into some specifics. Are there within your books, do any of them have any deleted scenes or things you would have wanted to include but for whatever reason couldn't?
Actually, the book that's coming up around Halloween, my debut is called Stakeout, and I released that in 2015. And initially, it was supposed to be about 60 to 70,000 words with an entirely different ending.
Okay.
And my characters decided they didn't like that. So I cut 20,000 words from it. Unfortunately, I deleted those words like an idiot, but first book, you live and you learn. And that ending is what's going to come out on Halloween in the box set because I missed it so much. The only other time there's been deleted scenes, I wrote my first YA novel, The Coven Princess. It was 185,000 words. And that's a little too long for most young adults. So I cut 85,000 words. And I'm going to say about 50,000 of those words wound up being repurposed in books 2 and 4 of the series.
Okay.
My style and my everything is very unique.
Yeah, well,
A
you
lot
did
of people.
mention you did mention being a pantser, so I'm not really surprised that there's a lot of mix and match, uh, a lot of more how can I say improvisational
Yes, that's a good way to
more
put it.
improvisational creative process where you try things out, test the feel, um, test the symmetry, test the composition, and then uh, and then adjust mixtures. I think that would be a fair assessment to make.
The phrase that a lot of people use is "I Frankenstein my books." They get written often out of order and get pieced together and then re-edited before they go to the professional.
Okay. Next question is the exact opposite. Is there anything you ever thought that should not be included in your books, but then decided, no wait, this actually makes sense to have here?
And it's in those 85,000 words that I cut. There was a character in The Coven Princess. I just didn't like him. I didn't want him put in there. So I cut all of his scenes And then book two came, and I'm like, wait, he could actually fit here. So I put him in with the plans to kill him before the end of book two. He was going to be a sacrifice. And not only did he make it to the end, but this isn't much of a spoiler either. He winds up marrying the main character. So yeah, I mean, I did not want him in these books, and he insisted.
Yeah, that's actually what happens with a lot of breakout characters. Initially, the Joker from Batman was supposed to die in the issue that he was where he was introduced, but given this is comics, he would have come back eventually. Maybe he wouldn't have been
Oh
as
yeah.
as big a deal as he is now, but whatever. Also, yeah, given you write about horror and urban stories, I believe you are you are familiar enough with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and especially with Spike, who was also
Yes.
meant to die in the episode where he was introduced. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Castiel from Supernatural. He was supposed to only be in 3 or 4 episodes, and he wound up being everyone's favorite character as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes us creators do not know best. The characters know best.
Yeah. See also Poe Dameron and Finn from the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where the actors say that their characters should hook up, but the producers and everyone behind the scenes was like, no, no gays in Star Wars.
No, I mean they got enough hate just for having non-white people around. I mean, I could only imagine the hate that they would get from the fanboys.
Yeah, the fan babies, more like. Okay. Given this, given this will by no means be your first rodeo, I have to ask: is there any aspect of writing that stands out to you in either in a particularly positive way or in a particularly negative way? So, is there something you absolutely love either about the writing process or about the later editing or publishing process?
I love the editing process. Again, I'm an editor as well, so I think it comes naturally. But the best thing about writing to me has always been sitting there and getting to know the characters. Because a lot of if a character will introduce a plot twist, I'm as surprised as my readers are. I usually don't know what's coming. So it's that element and that feeling when you're creating this world and you're creating all of these different things and it's just kind of flowing really well. I don't think there's anything better on earth than that feeling. And that I always know when the writing's doing good when I stop and look and it's been like 2,000 words in 3 hours and I had no idea time passed. It's a great feeling.
Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of negatives, but not about writing. It's more there's a lot of clicks in indie publishing. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of rules to follow. I don't do rules. I don't do clicks. I don't do any of that stuff. So trying to stay in the circle but not get involved is kind of can I curse?
Go right ahead.
It's a fucking pain in the ass. That's the only way I can describe it. And I talk about it a lot in other panels and just online. It's hard. I'm here to write. I'm not here to join a circle.
Yeah, well, what can I say? A lot of people want to feel comfortable and don't really care about the discomfort they cause, which is to some extent understandable, but still stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, next up. Uh, when it comes to your books, would you say are all of them traditionally published, are all of them indie published, or do you mix and match? How do you generally do it?
I started out traditionally with one of the largest small presses that's out there. In 2019, there were some issues that arose, and I chose to pull all of my novels and self-publish them. I've been learning about self-publishing since 2011, so I felt that that was enough time to go out on my own. I design most of my own covers. I do hire out for my editing. I learned formatting and coding by hand to make my books look good. And I prefer indie publishing. I do have some short stories out with publishers as well. Fractured Mind Publishing is one of them who has a ton of mine right now that's out there. But I love having my control over my schedule, over my content. It's very empowering as a writer.
Yeah, I uh, I get what you're saying. Mhm. uh, given you have you've tried out both, and um, it might be a safe bet to say that you have a pretty good grasp of what's going on both sides of the aisle. Did you have any preconceptions about any of the sides of the aisle that have been proven or disproven?
I think I thought, like I said, it was less about, the politics behind the scenes. So, going into it and getting all of these other things, it was surprising. So that was a bit disproven. But one thing that was proven was when you do find those people, those other authors and service providers that you can work with, it's a wonderful feeling knowing that there really is a community if you're looking for it. So having that proven was nice. And it's also uh, having it proven that just because you love what you write doesn't mean everyone else will. That was kind of bittersweet, but it's also good to know early on you're starting out, so I knew what to expect, all these years down the road, and not get upset or whatever, because people still do, and it's like you can't do that. You got to go with the flow and just understand that you're not everybody's cup of tea or cup of blood.
Yeah. By the way, thanks for working on on the Halloween flair, because I'm not really doing any of that right now.
Like I said, I have a pen name who does do contemporary books
Okay.
as Samantha Calcott, but my first loves have always been vampires. I mean, I'm wearing my Dracula shirt right now.
Oh, that's
So yeah, I
adorable.
mean, it's always been creepy stuff for me my whole life.
Okay.
So any interview I do, I sort of bring it in. It doesn't have to be a Halloween theme.
Uh, if I may get on a little if I may go on a little on a little non-writing sidebar here. Given you've given you've dealt with vampire stuff all throughout your life, I think you're aware that Dracula is the character who's appeared in most movies of any kind.
Yes.
Do you have
Yes.
any?
Also the most animated as well.
Hmm, okay. Do you have any favorite iteration in any format, any medium?
I have two that are tied. One of them might be kind of funny, but it was my first exposure to vampires, and that was on the original Scooby Doo from the 60s, that
Okay.
Dracula. So that's number one. And number two would be Gary Oldman's version and Bram Stoker's Dracula. I
Yeah.
love how he took that character, and he really does look like Prince Vlad. When you get the source material that Bram Stoker worked on, I think he's the one that looks the closest and also acts the closest.
Hmm.
And that storyline as well with that version of Dracula is also what inspired my earliest works.
There's actually plenty of evidence to suggest that Bram Stoker didn't actually think Dracula was based on any real person. He thought he was just some kind of local boogeyman. But oh well.
Right, but the Dracula, but it was the bats and the war he did actually base on the original Vlad.
Okay.
But it wasn't the vampire parts. It was just him being a warmonger, and yeah, the bats were released. Those are the two things that he incorporated.
Okay. Yeah.
But he never actually believed he was a vampire.
I'm
I
not.
don't know where that
I'm not
started.
gonna touch upon how how the actual person is has been handled in conjunction to his fictionalized legacy. So moving on, you already said that not everyone's that what you like to write or like to read isn't what everyone will enjoy. But how would you? But how? What have you ever? Would you ever say that the reception of any one of your stories, your poems, or your novels has ever been a teachable moment? Have you ever? Uh, would you say you have gained any kind of lessons from the way you've been able to receive and assimilate the reactions people have had to your works?
I learned two lessons, both with reviews based on different main characters. The first one would be Angelica from Paranormal Detective series, which was my first series. She was written because growing up, there weren't a lot of protagonists who looked like me or acted like me or liked the things that I did. Most of them were very, very plain and very cute, and that just wasn't something I could really relate to. So getting reviews and how many people loved her, it made me realize that I wasn't alone and that other people did want that. Whereas on the opposite end, I wrote Harley from the Coven series with a bit more of my personality when I was younger, because I'm neurodivergent, so I'm a little different from what most people expect. And a couple of the bad reviews were how unrealistic she was, her behavior, and that it was a teachable moment where sometimes being honest is actually really is less believable than fiction. It's that old line, the truth is stranger than fiction. And I learned that very quickly with some reviews,
Yeah.
which is funny. These are people who love the books but hated the character.
That's actually something very interesting because TV Tropes. I don't know if you're familiar with that website. Also has something like that about how reality is unrealistic. As in they have a trope, and they have a trope, or they have an article on a trope that is named like that, and that is exactly about what you're describing, about how some people see something as unrealistic, even though it's based on reality.
I'm going to have to read that.
Yeah, be warned, TV tropes will ruin your life. It says so on the front page actually. It
At
does.
least they're honest.
Yeah, it does grant you a certain perspective on how on how fiction is created and processed and the likes. But it does, but in establishing that framework, it kind of tends to override your own. So be warned.
Good to know. Thank you. I still want to go and check it out, though. Even more so now.
Okay, at, at your own peril. Okay. Next question. We're going a bit more personal here. How many of the people you would consider close know about your writing endeavors?
Not some, mostly people that I've known for a really long time. There are a couple of distant relatives who do not know because they're the type of Catholic who would not approve of me writing horror. But most of the people I know that I write. Some of them don't like my Samantha Calcott pen name as much, but that's to be expected. That's actually my more popular pen name. That's even less for everybody. So, but yeah, no, they know. I don't like to keep it a secret, even though I use a pen name. The only reason I use a fake name is my real name is taken by a cookbook author. So that's why I came up with the fake name.
Yeah.
To hide or anything.
Well, it was only after I picked my pen name that I found out that it was shared uh, by an American football star, and also there was a child actor who had most of it, whose name was mostly similar to mine, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I don't know if you know him. He was on.
Oh yes, and I do know the football player.
Okay. Well, the child actor was on Home Improvement for one, and he was the voice of young Simba in The Lion King.
I did not know that was the same kid I knew about Home Improvement. I did not know that was the same kid who did Simba. But yeah, that's still your name. At least will come up a lot, mixed in.
I guess. And also the name of my series is also the name of a series of Star Wars books. Given we already mentioned Star Wars a while back, it's kind of I didn't actually intend to. So the name of the series came up before I found out that there was already a series of Star Wars books with that same name. It was and at first I was like, oh crap, and then I was like, fuck it.
you can't copyright titles unless the character's name is in it. So you're good.
Okay,
There's
thank.
quite a few books called Last Rites, which is one of mine. There's quite a few books with that title, and I did not know that until it was already copyrighted and everything. I'm like, oh well, my loss, my loss or their gain. I'm not sure. I don't know whose book would come up first when it's searched for.
Yeah, you could try. You could try something like unusual spelling. There's a band called Churches. Only they don't spell their name with a U. They spell it with a V. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's basically a search engine optimized name because normally if you type in Churches, you're not gonna get a
Just
band.
kidding. No, no.
Anyway, uh, moving on. Uh, has uh, Now we've already talked about teachable moments when it comes to but we talk more about teachable moments in terms of writing and reception. Could you say you've had teachable moments when it comes to anything related to the publishing side of of the book industry?
The number one thing is rebranding, especially with your covers, is not a bad thing. I had to rebrand my first series, Paranormal Detectives, deciding to do typography covers. And yeah, that was a teachable moment because you kind of feel like a failure if you have to rebrand. But usually the rebrand is what's going to help you along the way and going to get new readers to your work. So that was something that was like tough for me to go get through, but I knew that I had to. And once it was done, I was so much happier.
Okay, we're almost done here. My next question, uh, of the questions I asked of you, is there any you'd want me to answer?
How did you start writing? Was it poetry? Was it novels?
It was mostly short stories. By the time I was already in grade school, but as a hobby, it kind of came and went. Like it wasn't really my central focus. I I really wanted to work more on something, something big, something immersive, something that would really catch the imagination uh, in the popular culture. I wanted an idea people would get immersed in. So not just not just going through quick adventure stories. Those could be fun, but they weren't really my thing. They weren't really something I thought would be interesting. And it took until I was like uh, 27 that I can really say I had both the idea and the level of confidence and insight necessary to where I could say, yeah, this is something I can work on.
I love that. And I love that you waited too until you knew you were ready. Because so many people jump in early on and usually wind up not finishing their novels.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I
Um,
personally waited until I was 25 before I started writing anything epic, over 80,000 words because I didn't feel like I was ready until then.
okay. I also had kind of an ambition that I wanted to already be published by the time I was 30. So you know, 27 was a 27 was a good age where I could start. And I also recently graduated, so I had no so I had no other thoughts uh, pressing on me.
Well, that's good.
Okay, and we're actually right at the end now. Is there any? But before I close off, I want to know: is there any link or platform that you want me to that you would want to shout out before before we end the interview? And any links you mention, I'm gonna post anyways. I'm gonna put anyway in the description. But let me know if there is anything you want to you in particular want to see, you know, would want people to throw their eyes on.
My two most active links, one would be my newsletter, which It's kind of a long URL. It's lilyluchesi.wix.com and again slash Lily Luchesi. I didn't want to put home at the end. For some reason it didn't look right.
Okay.
And also my Facebook page, which is just facebook.com slash Lily Luchesi. Everything that I'm doing, all my updates, those are the main two places to go.
Okay. Well, I think it's safe to say we're done here. Thanks for so thanks for participating.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad Kira mentioned you.
Sorry.
Uh, Kira, one of the writers that you interviewed.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know her?
Yes, yes, via Twitter.
Oh, yeah. I I actually know her too. I that interview was actually that interview I did with her was actually uh, part of the part of a, let's say, program to hype up her book, which I then also reviewed. So, and I'm one of the beta readers for her follow-up book. So
Oh,
yeah,
very nice. I have her book. I don't have a lot of reading time, and I can't wait to get to it because I knew her while she was still writing it.
yeah.
So I'm just so excited to finally read the final product.
Okay, well, that's nice. Uh, Happy reading. What can I say?
Thank you again for having me, and I will see you on Twitter most likely.
Yeah, I guess so. And thank you to everyone who has been patient with us and has followed with this interview. If you enjoyed this, then please leave a like and maybe even share this video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to anything that was mentioned over this last half hour about me, about my guest, about anything we talked about, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. Ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. You've already found out where you can find my guest. You can find me via my social media links, which are listed down below. And right past my social media, you'll also find a master link to all the various places where you can find my my writing debut, Heir to the Empire: The Next Generation. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair. Thank you, Lily. Bye.
Thank you.